Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people? The people misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E. Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
What more do you see?
Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Great to be here. Wendy's here by proxy. Wendy by proxy. Big shout out to you. First in chat this afternoon, Wendy. You have taken over the internet responsibilities. It's a punishment. It's not a reward. Don't be smiling. Don't be cheering. You're going to have to work for this one. You're going to have to work for this one. So congratulations, Wendy. First in chat today. Okay. And then I promptly broke my microphone. Oh, that's better. There we go. Yeah, now it's working. All right. Welcome, Wendy. Good luck. Good riddance, really. I'm just washing my hands of the internet thing altogether. Oh, here we go. We are ready for part 2 of day 4. This is post-jury view of the trial. I need to move this keyboard somewhere. I have too many keyboards. Is that a thing? 4 keyboards is too many. I need one keyboard, and it just needs to know which computer it's supposed to connect to at any given time. All right. Daybell's working great. Wonderful. We'll leave that right where it is, not mess with it. No, I'm not sweaty. I just took a shower. You know, just needed some cold water just to refresh today. And what's better than a lunchtime freezing cold shower? Not that I had to have a freezing cold, but my hot water works. I fixed that too. It stopped working this week, but fixed it because I do that now. I just fix things that break around me. That's all I do. Let's see. Oh, I do need the AC on though. That's gonna kill me. Let's see. Weather. Boom. There it goes. That's the sound I want to hear. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. But we're going to pick up right where we left off. I don't think there's anything else I need to report on. Nope. We can just jump right into where we left off. This is what happens when you get the new tools. I probably should have dried my hair a little bit more because it's like dripping down my neck. My shirt. It's going to have to be a no shirt Thursday here. Is that a thing? Makes for a totally different podcast tonight, which tonight, 8 o'clock tonight on this channel. Please join me and Thomas. We're going to have a lot of fun, as we usually do on podcast tonight. So please, we're going to debut Thomas's, I wouldn't call it defensive. It's offensive. It's offensive driving, not defensive driving. Video of him offensively driving. It sounds bad, but anyway, if you want to see Thomas drive, and drive it like he stole it, you've got to be here tonight for the podcast because we're going to show that video there. All right, ready. Popcorn's ready. Blast off already, says Ann. Let's do this. No shirt. That was close. That was really close. No replay on that one, guys. No replay. No shirt Thursday. It's one of those days. You guys all have days like this, right? When your mouth just won't quite form the words correctly. And I'm just waiting for the poop emoji in chat. Y'all pray for me. Recovery Addict can say why, because he knows. Amber, one of our amazing mods, who has her finger in all sorts of pies as far as true crime goes. If there's a court case out there, breaking news somewhere, Amber is probably behind that latest revelation. brand new documents. She can sniff them as they come off the printer in courthouses, and she can find them. There we go. So amidst everything else she does, both for us on this channel and for As the Gavel Drops, the Discord page, and everything else, because she does some other stuff, that's, being, who she is. She has a job that that apparently everybody else on her team, which should probably be about a team of 20, just from what she's told me that she does, about a team of 20. I think they're all quitting, and all the work still needs to get done. And Amber is going to do it. At which point, if it's a slip of the tongue, if I do it repeatedly, what point does it not become a slip of the tongue? It's just habit. 20 would be phenomenal. How does 1 sound, Amber? Team of 1. Go get them. Go get them. She's got this. She's going to do great as well. And I believe although it's one of those lateral promotions, meaning your job description got wider, but the pay I don't think has caught up yet. So even though your company is not paying you the salary of all the people whose work you now have to do, you still have to do all the work. Good luck, Amber. We'll give you a break on monitoring chat as you try to keep the world spinning on your end. All right, let's begin with court, because we've stalled long enough. Let's hit it off here. Do we have audio? Nope. Helps if we push the right button.
Yes, sir. The Commonwealth will call Mr. Gregory Woodbury to the
You guys
stand.
probably want to see this one too, right? Let's do that. There we go. Gregory Woodbury, next witness on the stand for the Commonwealth. The view is over. Jury is back. Fresh on their mind. They know exactly what the House, the flagpole, and the Marine flag look like. Second time you slip, it's game on.
Step up to the witness stand, please. Face that clerk and the jury. You solemnly swear the ever speak of the court and jury in the case now hearing speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do. Thank you.
Do you have video backup of streams? I am running a recorder that records the input, a clean input.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
So the recorder
Good afternoon.
looks like...
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name, please?
Greg Woodbury, Woodbury.
Recorder looks like this.
Lieutenant Paramedic on the Canton Fire Department.
This is what I'm recording.
How long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
But I like to overlay.
About 24 years now.
How long have you had the rank of lieutenant within the Canton Fire Department?
That's been 8 years now.
Now, prior to working with Canton Fire Department, what, if any, other work did you have within that same sort of field?
Prior to being on Canton Fire, I was an EMT paramedic in the North Shore area.
And if you could just, with regard to your working as a paramedic and a firefighter, specifically as far as being a paramedic, what, if any, sort of specialized training did you receive in regard to, or certifications did you receive in regard to being a paramedic?
So after I got my EMT, when I went to paramedic school, I went to Northeastern University. It was a 1-year full-time program.
And following you successfully completed that program, is that correct?
Yes.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or a recertification component in regard to your paramedic certification?
Yeah, every 2 years, paramedics have to recertify. We're required to get so many hours of continuing education to recertify every 2 years.
If I could turn your attention to the date of January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Were you working with the Canton Fire Department on that day?
Yes.
And what kind of shift were you working on that occasion, if you recall?
It was a 24-hour shift.
And 24-hour shift within the Canton Fire Department is what to what?
It's 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day.
Now, turning your attention to the 29th, at what point do you sort of get up and start to begin your day at the fire station?
So a normal day, sorry, was that my beginning of the shift you're talking about, or the end of the shift? Okay, so the second part of the shift. Normally we get up at 6 for the officers, but I got up a little earlier then because we had the snowstorm coming in. So I had to make sure everything was shoveled. I think I got up about maybe 5, check the apron of the area in front of the station, and make sure the walkways were clear.
And when you got up to check that, what, if anything, did you?
It had been snowing. There was blizzard type conditions coming in. So it was a decent level of snowfall there. Let me see, maybe 2-3 inches on the ground at that time.
And as far as with reference to that, what, if anything, did you do to...
I think we can move quickly through this part of it.
Yeah.
The cleaning the apron.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
How many times do we have to hear that you shovel the driveway at the fire department?
I was lieutenant on engine 4.
And with respect to that, at some point shortly after 6 a.m., did you receive a dispatch to a call?
Yes, yeah, we're dispatched to a call for a person in the snow.
And did you respond to that call, sir?
Yes, I did.
And you were assigned to the engine, is that correct?
Correct.
Who, if anyone else, was assigned to the engine that day?
There's a sign.
So we had Cade McLaughlin and Frank Walsh were my 2 engine crew.
And in addition to yourself and your engine, what if any other sort of vehicles or apparatuses responded?
Ambulance 1 also responded with us. So that was Tony Flamati, Matt Kelly, and Tim Nuttall had also hopped on the ambulance. He was coming in for the shift in the morning, came in early to beat the storm.
And do you recall where the call was in regard to what the address was?
I don't remember the address offhand, but it was not that far away in the district.
And when you arrived in the engine, when you first arrived on scene, as you were arriving on scene, what, if anything, did you sort of see as upon your arrival?
So the police were already there. We were approaching the scene. I could see several people off to the side in the yard doing something, so we went to investigate that.
When you say off to the side, was that to your left, your right, or something?
So the way I was approaching the street, it was on the left-hand side.
And when you indicate you see some group of people, is that correct?
Yeah, there was a few people around. I don't remember exactly how many or what they were doing.
And when you start to make your way over there, what, if any, when you arrive on scene, what is sort of the first thing that you do?
So we went to evaluate the patient. I believe someone had started CPR prior to us getting there, so we went to continue that.
When you say someone had started CPR prior to you?
I don't remember the particular individual that was doing it as we arrived.
My only question, sir, so it's someone outside of your department, correct?
Yeah.
And do you know if it was one of the police officers or someone else?
I don't remember.
This sounds like a fairly truthful recollection of an event a couple years prior.
Now, obviously, you're dispatched in response to an unresponsive male, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that you're arriving on scene, you say you see sort of a cluster of people. Were you able to see that unresponsive male at that point?
Not in the vehicle, not until I exited the vehicle.
And at some point, much later or subsequently, did you come to learn the identity of the unresponsive male or the patient that you were involved in?
Afterwards, they told me yes. At the time, I did not know.
And what did you learn his name to be subsequently?
I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous and blanking right now.
Was it Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, correct.
That's leading, but it's allowed on something like that.
When you first came over to where Mr. O'Keefe was on the ground, is that correct?
Yes, he was.
What kind of position was his body in when you first observed?
He was lying supine on the ground, like on his back. He was parallel to the street, about 8 feet away from the snowbank.
And in reference to that, as far as the snow was concerned, what, if any snow did you observe on or around where he was?
He was covered with snow, and there was snow around the area.
And so from a treatment of Mr. O'Keefe as a patient, what is sort of the first thing that you did or
we started CPR, or CCR, sorry. Immediately, someone went to go get a board to get him onto that so we can get him onto the stretcher and move him to the ambulance. And then someone else is trying to get the backstory, trying to figure out the scenario that we're dealing with.
If I could just stop you for a moment. So you mentioned CCR, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the difference between CCR versus CPR?
CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So that is when you're helping someone breathe. CCR is when we first get to a scene, they changed the protocols a little while ago, so we don't have to give respirations right away. We can just do compressions. It's a little more effective to get the blood flowing quickly.
Thanks. As far as your involvement in patient care, sort of what was that during that initial phase where Mr. O'Keefe is supine on the ground? What was your involvement in patient care at that point?
I was assisting with the CPR, making sure everyone else was doing their task. As a lieutenant, I kind of got to manage the other people and make sure everyone's on target for what they're supposed to be doing.
And during that initial time that you're outside in the area where Mr. O'Keefe is on the ground, what, if any, observations did you make as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe at that time?
Outside on the ground, he was covered in snow. So we're really not doing any sort of secondary survey initially. The primary concern is the primary survey, which is airway, breathing, circulation. He was not breathing. He had no pulse, so our primary concern is to get that going.
And at some point, are you able to get him from the ground to the back of the ambulance?
Yeah, we moved him onto a longboard, then moved him from the longboard onto the stretcher, and brought the stretcher over the ambulance and loaded him in there.
You mentioned at some point upon your sort of initial arrival at the patient that different people were tasked with different things, right?
Yes.
And someone was tasked with trying to get sort of what you termed a backstory, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that important?
So when you have someone unconscious, unresponsive, you want to know when they were last well, the last breathing, last seen, trying to figure out why someone is on the ground. There are different reasons of why they could be there, trying to figure that out. Normally people don't lay down in the snow, so trying to evaluate the reason the person was unconscious.
And so you're able to get him on, Mr. O'Keefe, onto a stretcher into the back of the ambulance, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And fair to say that the lighting in the back of the ambulance is better than it was outside?
Correct.
And when you're in the back of the ambulance, are you able to then do or participate in that secondary survey?
Yeah, we started doing a secondary survey after we started getting good compressions going. Someone was working on the intubation, and then one of the procedures is to strip off the clothes and evaluate the person.
And if you recall, how were the clothes removed?
I don't recall exactly which method they used. Typically we cut them off, but I'm not sure if they did that or they just pulled them off.
And what, if anything, do you recall as to Mr. O'Keefe's clothing and sort of what he was wearing when he was found?
I really wasn't paying attention to it. The primary concern is trying to revive him.
So to that secondary survey, as far as once you're in the back of the ambulance, what, if anything, did you observe as far as injuries on Mr. O'Keefe at that?
He had a hematoma, or a bruising. The right eye was very prominent. There was some scratches on the right forearm. Was most of the external injuries we noted.
And now, in addition, so as far as people on scene, there were a number of different firefighters from your department. You mentioned that the police were on scene when you arrived. Is that correct?
Correct.
So beyond the police and fire, what, if any, other individuals did you observe at some point when you were on scene?
There was some other civilians there. I really wasn't paying attention to them.
Now, with reference to that backstory that you were talking about, at any point in time, either outside of the ambulance or inside of the ambulance, who, if anyone, was tasked by you or anyone else to try and obtain that backstory?
I think Katie McLaughlin was the one that obtained the backstory.
And if you know, was there any other conversation that you were present for between any of your other firefighters and any of those civilians?
That was primarily when she relayed to us the information that she had obtained. We were trying to figure out the scenario of why he was found unconscious, unresponsive.
Let me ask you this way. So as far as arrival at the patient when he's on the ground,
yep.
Who gets there first? You and the other individuals in the engine, or the firefighters in the ambulance?
We both respond from the same station at the same time. The engine's in the front, the ambulance usually in the rear. So I believe we pulled over, the ambulance pulled over at the same time as us. I believe C5 went as well, which is the captain. he was also responding with us.
Now, as far as the person that Firefighter McLaughlin spoke to, what, if anything, did you know about that person at that time?
At that time, I knew nothing. I knew there was someone that had been with him. She relayed the information of what she had heard to us.
And the information that Firefighter McLaughlin, without reference to what it was, but the information that Firefighter McLaughlin was able to obtain, did she communicate that to you and the other firefighters in the ambulance?
Yes. Yeah, she came in the ambulance, told us what she had heard.
Okay, so that matches up with the previous witness.
The information that Firefighter McLaughlin provided, did that comport with what you were observing as far as injuries to Mr. O'Keefe?
Objection.
Sustained. You can lay a foundation if.
Now, as far as, again, the injuries that you observed to Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance were what?
It was the bruising of the right eye and the scratches on the forearm.
And what, if anything, did Firefighter McLaughlin indicate to you had been told to her?
That someone said she had hit him, and he was last seen.
Objection. Move to strike.
Sustained. That will be stricken.
That was a late objection because that was hearsay. They're going to approach here and see if they can get around this and find an objection to hearsay that the judge can agree to. But yeah, I'm surprised that was slow on the defense, especially because that was basically round 2 of objecting to the same thing. Why they didn't jump on that one a little bit sooner and instead let the jury hear that, I don't know. But now, let's see. So we do have this, Greg Woodbury is agreeing with the previous witness, Katie McLaughlin, that Katie came into the ambulance and reported this conversation. That's what the objection's about right here, because that's where the hearsay comes in. That reported on what she'd heard, that somebody had said she had hit him. The jury heard that. We heard that. The jury has been instructed to unhear that, to put that poop back in the horse, which they may or may not be able to do. He keeps saying forearm. Are you catching that? For me, forearm is elbow to wrist. Is that correct? I thought they were more shoulder to elbow injuries. I can't remember the injury marks. Are they forearm? We haven't seen the injuries yet, at least in trial we haven't. I know there's some social media pictures out there that were leaked a long time ago. It was on his whole arm. Selena's saying, I'm thinking that she did hit him at this point. What are the families thinking? Wish they weren't in the backdrop of of every shot. When you have two witnesses that agree on the story, it tends to help that testimony. So the jury might be believing at least that portion of the story that Katie McLaughlin said about climbing into the back of the ambulance and reporting to other people what she had just heard in the moment.
We always try and check and make sure that your lunch is here before we take a break. I'm told that it is. So we will take a lunch break. We'll see everybody here ready to start right at 2 o'clock.
Okay, we're going to fast forward through that break because we already took our lunch break. So let me make sure they're not doing any more business outside of the jury. Here's lunch break. Okay, here we go. Well, we're flying through the day. Man. 3, 2... Okay, it starts abruptly. Ready, set, go.
The treatment of Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance, okay?
Yes.
With respect to that, you testified that you don't recall sort of specifically anything as far as clothing for Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
I was not paying attention to the clothing. And
so to that point, what were you paying attention to at that?
Primarily the big issue was doing the CCR, then to CPR. We're trying to resuscitate the person as best we can. We know with the hypothermic patient, it's very difficult. It's a longer treatment protocol than a typical cardiac arrest because we have to do the CPR for an extended period of time. We have to get the patient warmed up. So the clothing is just quickly removed versus examined or looked at. And the focus was on getting compressions done. Someone was trying to intubate, getting a line started. So that's what we're mainly focused on.
As far as treatment is concerned, what, if any, sort of interplay or intersection is there between a cardiac arrest and a hypothermic patient? When someone's hypothermic and in a cardiac arrest, we can't declare them dead or passed on until they've been warmed up. A lot of times with hypothermic patients, they can appear to be dead when they're still actually alive. So there has been instances where people have woken up in morgues that were hypothermic when their body warmed up a little bit. So we have to be very cautious, very careful about, treating them as much as we can, as careful as we can. We can't shake them too much, can't move them too much.
They literally woke
so
up
it's
dead.
Getting the blood circulating and then starting ventilating after a few minutes.
Back to the CCR, the chest compression
Yep.
that we're talking about. What, if any, sort of based on
cold
your
cases.
training and experience, what, if any, sort of protocols are? Well, let me ask you this: were you doing chest compressions throughout the entirety of this interaction with the patient?
No, chest compressions. Most people do it for about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it's very tiring to do chest compressions, so we swap off every few minutes. So a different person will come in and do the compressions. They'll do it for a little while, go into a different task. Someone else will come in and do compressions.
Is that sort of the protocol that you followed in this instance? With
Yes.
regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, we were rotating the person doing compressions.
And the ambulance at some point leaves the scene and goes to a hospital. Is that correct?
Correct.
And do you know what hospital, Mr.
Good Samaritan Medical Center.
If you could just wait till.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Question is,
Yeah. Good Samaritan Medical Center.
And did you go along for that ambulance ride?
No, I did not.
And where did you go?
So as the lieutenant on the engine, I stay with the engine. I detailed my 2 other engine personnel to the ambulance. So they went with the 2 engine personnel, the 2 regular people on the ambulance, as well as an additional person. Timmy Nuttall was the extra person for that one.
And so you take the engine and go with it?
I went back to the station.
And at some point shortly after that, are you called back to the roadway of Fairview Road?
Yes.
And same general area of Fairview Road?
Yes, same address.
And how is it that you get from the station back to Fairview?
So we had struck a box to cover the personnel that we had detailed. That means we send out a page looking for additional people to come in. We had Sam Pock come in. So he was my engine driver. And I was in the lieutenant's seat. We responded back in engine 4.
And the ambulance that had been there on Fairview Road with you previously was at Good Samaritan?
Yes. Yeah, a call like that takes an extended period of time, even at the hospital, to assist them there. So we had to get an ambulance from Station 2.
And if you know, who was on that ambulance from Station
2? That was Jason Becker and Dan Whitley.
Now, with reference to this particular call, what, if anything, was this secondary dispatch with regard to?
So this call was for a Section 12, which is someone in having a psychological issue.
And do you know who that Section 12 was in regard to?
Yeah, this was for Karen Reed.
And at some point, you go back to the scene along with the engine and the second ambulance from Station 2? Yeah,
so the engine got there first. The ambulance coming from the other station, so it was a couple extra minutes before they got there.
And when you arrived, who, if anyone else, is sort of on scene on Fairview Road at that point?
The police were still on scene. They had never left. So initially it was me, Sam Pock, and the police. So I went up to try to get the backstory of why we're doing a Section 12 and what was going on.
And at some point, well, when you first arrived, without regard to what was said to you, but who, if anyone, do you speak with to sort of try to gain this information or backstory?
When I got onto the scene, I talked to the police that was there.
Who'd you talk to, sir? The police officer who was
Police
there?
officer, yes. Sorry.
And do you recall specifically who that police officer was?
I really did not pay attention to the individual officer.
And at some point, do you have a conversation, or what, if any, conversation do you have with the patient in this case, the defendant, Ms. Reed?
So it was when we identified Karen Reed as the patient, the ambulance arrived shortly after. We started talking to her and trying to get her into the ambulance to talk to her further.
And just to be clear for the records, when you say Ms. Reed, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, she's right over there.
Does the record reflect identification of the defendant by the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where is she sort of when you first make contact with her on scene when you come back?
In the general vicinity of where the police cars are.
And what is sort of the purpose of this initial conversation that you're having with Ms. Reed?
For Section 12, that's when someone's made threats to them, harm themselves or others. So I just had to judge her mental ability at the time and if she was a threat to us and how much of a threat she was to herself. So just a quick evaluation, see how her behavior was.
And what, if any, observations did you make of her during your quick conversation?
She appeared very distraught, very upset. Initially just trying to explain the situation to her about going to the hospital with the Section 12, and she was resistant to that.
And so when you say she was resistant to that, what if anything, did she say or do to...
She did not want to go...
Hold on. You cannot talk over each other. The objection's overruled.
Yeah. Okay.
Please go ahead, sir.
So what was the question again, please? Yeah.
So what, if anything, when you say she was resistant, what, if anything, did she communicate to you, or observations did you make in regard to that?
She did not want to go to the hospital, and she didn't think she needed any assistance.
And what, if anything, are you sort of, you mentioned you were explaining sort of the process to her, what, if anything, are you saying in that explanation?
Well, once a Section 12 gets written, it's written by the police. Once it's written, we are required to transport to the hospital. Section 12 means that they believe you're a threat to yourself or others, so you have to get evaluated at the hospital by the hospital staff there to see how mentally stable you are.
Now, at this time of this conversation, what, if anything, did you know as far as the relationship between Ms. Reed and the prior patient, Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew they had a relationship. I wasn't sure if they were married or engaged or what their status was, but I knew she was did have a strong relationship with him.
And in reference to Mr. O'Keefe, during your conversation with Ms. Reed, what, if anything, was she asking or saying in reference to Mr. O'Keefe?
She kept repeating, is he dead, is he dead? She seemed very concerned about that. We're trying to explain to her that we cannot declare him dead. He's being evaluated, he's being treated. They're trying to treat him the best they can.
And as far as when she's stating these things to you, is this, as far as the sort of tonality of her voice while she's saying these things to you, can you describe that?
She was very up and down. It was a repetitive conversation with her. She's obviously experiencing a lot of different emotions, so just her emotional state was all over the place.
And as far as this sort of second time that you're on scene, about how long period of time are we talking about?
That was about between 15 and 20 minutes.
And as far as your conversation with Ms. Reed, where did she go? Did you stay with her sort of the entire time that she was on scene that second time? Or?
Because she was resistant, we were trying to get her to voluntarily go. If someone voluntarily goes, even with the section written, they're released a lot quicker. So we're trying to convince her to go, be willing to go with us versus being forced. If at some point we have to actually force her to go against her will, then it's going to be a much longer hospital stay. So our main goal with staying on the scene so long was to try to get her willingly to go. Just makes her experience much better.
And just to be clear, when you say we, who specifically are you referring to?
It was me, Dan Whitley, Jason Becker were the ones talking to her in the back of the ambulance.
When you clear, so when you leave the scene, where is Miss Reed at that point?
So the ambulance transported her to the Good Samaritan. We also detailed Sam Pock as the driver.
So the gentleman who had driven, or the firefighter that had driven you in the engine to the scene that
Yep.
drives the ambulance away.
Yes, correct.
Could you say his name again, please?
Sam Pock.
Sam what?
Sam Pock.
Spell it, please, the last name?
P-O-C-H is the last name.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Okay. Ready?
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Woodbury, you and I have never met or spoken, correct?
No.
I know you had said you were nervous, so I'm going to try and make
Okay.
this fairly brief,
Thank you.
sir. I just have a couple of areas that I'd like to go.
Okay.
He keeps talking over him.
So to your interaction with Karen Reed and what you actually heard from her mouth.
Okay.
That's sort of where I want to concentrate, as opposed to anything that anybody else may have said to you about what they believe she might have said. Okay?
Okay.
And it seems to me that your main interaction with her was not when the initial call came in to respond to, a man who was unresponsive in the snow. It was after you went back to the station in the engine and then came back to the scene for the purposes of the Section 12 that you described. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
And when you came back to the scene for the Section 12, it's also fair to say that the Section 12 issue was your focus, correct?
Correct.
You had an order in hand, correct?
The police had it and they gave it to us when we got there.
Right. Okay. So you got an order in hand once you got there.
Correct.
Which is what you expected to happen, correct?
Yes.
And your focus at that point is, okay, and I don't want to be too, flip, but we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Is that a fair characterization?
That is one way to put it.
And you wanted to do it the easy way.
Yes, correct.
And you wanted to persuade Karen Reed that she should want to do it the easy way, correct?
Yes.
And after some conversation back and forth where she was initially resistant, she eventually agreed, yes, I'll do, not to put words in your mouth or hers, but to the effect of, yes, we'll do this the easy way, correct?
Did get her to agree to transport.
All right. And with regard to her state of mind, I believe you had testified that she appeared to be very distraught.
Yes, correct.
Going through a lot of emotions.
Yes.
Grief-stricken.
Oh, that's one of them, yes.
Hysterical at times.
Yes.
Raising her voice at times.
Yes.
Crying at times.
I didn't see any actual tears, but that type of emotional display.
All right. And so in terms of the only commentary that you heard with regard to her feelings or questions regarding John O'Keefe, it was the statements that you heard repetitively over and over and over again. Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead?
That was some of the things she was saying, yes.
Your Honor, may we approach sidebar briefly?
Okay.
What could they possibly want to approach sidebar about? Are they going to try to impeach this witness? He seems pretty fair. Seems pretty clear. Seems to have a what I would call an average recollection of an event. Selena says, I worry about not catching up because of the verdict. Oh, the verdict's going to happen. We'll probably know about it before we get there. Why are we watching this delayed instead of catching up? Because I don't want to compete directly with some YouTubers who I have a lot of respect for, and I've told them I won't compete directly with them on this one. We might get closer to being caught up, but we won't be live. By the time this is over, we might be a day or two behind. What is with this water? What's the brand of water? Poland Springs? Is that what it is? Everybody's drinking this green label water bottle. I've never seen it before. It must be a local thing. Poland Springs? I'm sort of a Deer Park guy myself. It's very common in the area. It's a Nestle product, Blue Triton Waters. There we go. I drink Deer Park because I can't afford Fiji.
So
what about the side?
I think, Ms. Giannetti, I think you need the actual.
Yes. I was going to ask a couple of questions first and then grab it.
But it's right there for when you need it.
Lieutenant Woodbury, on your direct examination, you testified a bit, and I don't want to block a jury here, I'm sorry. You testified a bit about the injuries that you observed on John O'Keefe when you first arrived at the scene, correct?
Yes.
You testified about the swollen eye?
Yes.
And you also testified about the scratch marks that you saw on his forearm, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to show you, I'm going to approach in a minute, to show you what has been marked M for identification. And when I hand it to you, please keep it to yourself and look at it, and then look up at me when you're done, okay?
Where are we going with this?
Having reviewed M for identification, do you recognize what that depicts?
Yes.
What does it depict?
That is Mr. O'Keefe's right arm.
All right. Does that photograph appear to be a fair and accurate representation of the scratch marks that you observed on January 29th of 2022, sir?
Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
Okay. That will be our next exhibit, and again, we'll have to maybe renumber. Counsel, before you leave today, we have to figure out how to keep everything straight.
Understood.
Did the court screw that up, the numbering system? Or did the two sides use the same numbering
With the court's permission, Your Honor, may I have that published on the screen for the jury?
Yes.
So we may get a visual of the arm injuries here, if the cameraman...
Now, on direct examination, Lieutenant, hang on. Let me just have a moment. Oh, good point. I'm going to try to
okay, so.
With regard to the injuries that you described on direct examination, Lieutenant, I believe you would mainly concentrate...
I'm sorry, I need to... Please take this down for me. I need to concentrate.
Wow. Okay, so here's what the first things come to mind. First of all, some of his side was visible in that shot as well, and the coloring looks all off. I don't know. I don't have enough familiarity with people who experience hypothermia to understand what impact that has on the body's coloring. So I can't say that what we saw in the background was bruising. But man. Let's see. Let me add this to here. Go back and look at it on my other screen. Okay, I'm not seeing the puncture. Well, the elbow looks more like puncture marks. The top, the big long scratches on the upper part of the arm, those look like scrapes, where the majority of the damage was done at the end of the wound. Does that make sense? So instead of like a bite and a tear, which I was thinking, because I've heard that of dog bites, what these look like. I think the elbow to me looks more like dog bite, where those big long punches and tears, not so much. Where did they start and where did they end? Man. Do you think that the injury began at the narrow point, the narrow side, and ended on the towards the back, towards his back? Long tears look like dog nails. Okay, I'm seeing that. You've got scratches on the outside and punctures on the inside. Not a fan of this camera view. Looks like the jury just left. It looks like we have another proffer going on. Round 2. Look at that laptop with the add-on screen. Waiting for audio to come back. Can't see it. I'm looking at it on my screen, just on my replay machine. I'm just looking close up. I don't want to just leave it on the screen forever. It is fairly graphic. Sidebar still going on. This camera view, it looks like we're shooting over the heads of the jury. And see what you see on the far side? I think the entire section of the jury, possibly even like that upper bench on our side, from the blue tape over, I think that's all jury members. No, there's got to be a gap between the gallery and where the jury sits right there. See that section's taped off. I think that's the gap. What a great use of painter's tape, though. Casey, we have not heard from the ME yet. We're on witness number 10. Just going down the list, if they give us a second, I'll tell you who we had. First, Paul O'Keefe, brother to Officer John O'Keefe. Aaron O'Keefe, which was Paul's wife. Third was Officer Stephen Seraph. Fourth was Patrol Officer Stephen Manoli. Did I say that right? I think it's Manoli. Fifth was Timothy Nuttall, who's a firefighter. Sixth was Acting Lieutenant Anthony Flametti. Seventh was Matthew Kelly. I don't remember what his title was. What was Matthew Kelly's title? I think he was paramedic, because he was asked. He was the one. Yeah, he was the young paramedic. He was asked a lot of questions about the trauma shares and stuff. Witness 8 was Francis Walsh. Number 9 was Katie McLaughlin, and 10 we're now on Lieutenant Greg Woodbury. Laura, I didn't follow the Adams case. We followed his first case, the firearms case, but not the Harmony case. I know there's sentencing is going on here. It's probably going to be fairly quick, I'm guessing, unless they have victim statements. But we didn't follow the main trial, so we'll probably just announce it when the sentence comes on. I have not seen Dr. G's evaluation of Karen Reed yet. We can fast forward, but it looks like we're almost done with the day at this point. They've had so many breaks and jury views and everything else we've been skipping through. Did y'all enjoy the cross of the female paramedic? That was choice, Helena. That was pretty good, pretty spicy. Dog would only do a smaller amount of damage if someone got the dog off of him. I was attacked by a dog when I was 12, knocked me off a bike and got 2 bites in and scratch before an adult moved in. So what's the theory on the dog? We've heard what I think the defense said that the dog was not good with other people, with strangers, or people it wasn't familiar with. Are we saying is the theory that he got into a fight and the dog joined in, like he got into a fist fight, the dog joined in and they threw him outside? He hit his head or something and threw him outside? They did get rid of the dog. Lois says, I've been bit 3 times by a German Shepherd. There was always lower teeth marks. I can't tell from the way the body's positioned if there are or not. Where lower teeth marks could occur. That's the theory. Interesting. So the jury are being brought back in, I guess, right now. Mr. Jackson, Mr. Yannetti, have a brief conversation here after the sidebar. Let's see where they go with this.
This court is in session. Please be seated.
So, jurors, I can assure you that by Monday, we're in really good shape. It's an organizational situation that I have to deal with. So we've been dealing with that. We appreciate your patience, and we are in good shape. And Mr. Yannetti, if you need the exhibit, it's here.
Terrific. May I have it published again on the
Yes.
Okay, we're going to see the arm scratches again.
Now, Lieutenant, with regard to the injuries that you observed, did you notice any lividity on the body when you were looking at John O'Keefe?
Being hypothermic, he was very pale overall. So the skin wasn't pinked up yet. So it's hard to really judge the rest of the skin that way until it's warmed up and much later into the scene.
You are familiar with the term lividity, though?
Yes.
Could you just explain that to the jury?
That's like bruising. So the pooling of blood in lower sections. So for like a cardiac arrest patient, when they have lividity, it looks like bruising on the underside where all the blood has pooled. And we did not really notice that.
But it's not actually bruising from an injury. It's just the blood
settling down. It's the same thing, yes.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, sorry. So it appears like bruising, and bruising is basically pooling of blood under the skin. So this is lividity is just gravity-fed pooling of blood under the skin. And it usually happens what is the section of the body that is lowest.
I see. Okay. Now, with regard to the scratches that you've testified about and that you now observe on Exhibit 382, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your testimony on direct examination was that you observed them in the forearm area, correct?
It was the right, like forearm to arm. I was trying to signal like right up here, but yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on the
Not just, it was the arm area. You know, mostly what I noticed was forearm, but there was some around there.
Okay, so it wasn't just below the elbow?
It was not just below the elbow.
There was some above the elbow as well?
Yep.
That's consistent with Exhibit 382?
Correct.
I missed that moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No further questions.
Mr. Lally, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Lieutenant, thank you very much. So you're all set.
So another witness, the defense does not attempt to impeach in any manner.
Our next witness, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would call Mr. Daniel Whitley to the stand.
Daniel Whitley, one of the three people, I believe, that was in the back of the ambulance when they called, when they went and picked up Karen Reed on the Section 12 call.
Just tell us whether you ever sworn to the court and during the case down here and speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Aquafina water.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Daniel Whitley, Whitley.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a paramedic firefighter with the Town of Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
I was hired in March of '06.
And prior to that work with the Canton Fire Department, did you work within that same field in any other capacity or for any other company?
Yes, correct. I worked for American Medical Response out of Brockton as an EMT intermediate and a paramedic for 5 years.
And you're a certified paramedic, is that correct?
Correct.
And how long have you held that certification?
It was, I believe, November of 2006 that I got that certification.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or recertification process that's involved with being a certified paramedic?
Yes, we recertify every 2 years. We're required to hold basic life support card, which is just generally CPR, and advanced cardiac life support, which is ACLS. It's more dealing with EKGs and how to run resuscitations, cardiac arrests, things of that nature.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th into January 29th of 2022, were you working with the Canton Fire Department on those dates?
Yes.
What kind of shift were you working on that?
24-hour shift, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And where were you assigned on that particular date?
The Ponkabog Station, Station 2.
The Ponkabog Station, where is that located within Canton?
The north side of town on Sassamont Street.
And how were you assigned to a specific duty or a specific?
Yes, I was assigned to Ambulance 2 with Jason Becker. As I was a field training officer at that point, and he was just finishing up his field training after he recently became certified as a paramedic.
And now, at some point shortly after 6 a.m., were you aware of a call or dispatch in regard to Station House 1?
Yes, we had just returned from a previous call about 5 a.m. and heard the tones go off. Actually, we were in the day room, which is where it's the living room of a fire station. And we heard the tones go off, we heard the police going to Fairview Road. And we just kind of sat and were wondering what was going on there.
Now, you yourself, you and Firefighter Becker, were you dispatched to a call as well, approximately 6:41 or 6:42 a.m.?
Yes.
And at the time that you received that dispatch, what, if anything, were you aware of with regard to the prior call that the other ambulance went?
So when the tones go off between the two stations, we're able to hear what the dispatch complaint is, what they're going for, and it came in as, I believe, CPR in progress in the snow or something to that regard. So we knew that it was a fairly serious call that Station 1 had gone to.
Now, when you received your dispatch at approximately 6:42 a.m. or so, what was that call in regard to, and where did you respond?
We were dispatched for a Section 12.
And as far as your assignments within the ambulance between yourself and firefighter Becker, with regard to this call, who was doing what?
I was driving. He's what we call the tech, the lead paramedic on the case. That's just generally how we operate.
And from your response, or your driving from Station 2 to Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe or experience en route in between the two?
At that point, it was snowing pretty heavily. We were coming down Chapman Street, getting ready to take the right onto Fairview. We nearly slid off the road, making the turn onto Fairview. It was snowing that heavily, and I don't believe the roads had been really plowed or treated or anything like that for us to. So it was pretty slippery.
Now, in addition to ambulance number 2 that you and firefighter Becker were in, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatus was dispatched to this call as well?
There was Engine 3, which is the District 1 engine, and at least 2 police cruisers. And then another gray SUV kind of further down from where we parked.
Now, when you arrive in this area on Fairview Road, what, if anything, do you sort of observe as far as who's there when you arrive?
When I got out, my Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park were there.
And they were on the engine, is that correct?
They were on the engine, correct.
Now, beyond sort of the personnel from your department, you mentioned that there were some police officers there as well?
Yes, Mulaney and Saraf, and then 2 other females, at least 2 other females.
And the other 2 females, where were they when you first sort of get out of the ambulance?
A few yards ahead of us, a few dozen yards ahead of us, I'd say.
And were there any other vehicles beyond sort of first responders that you observed on?
Just that other gray SUV.
And so I guess my question is, where were the 2 females that you observed in relation to the gray SUV?
Near it, maybe in front of, maybe one was inside. There were 3 females there.
And at some point while you're on scene, you learned the identity of your patient, correct?
Yes.
And what was the name of the patient?
Karen Reed.
And you had some conversation with Karen Reed that day, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you see Karen Reed in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just describe as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She's seated right at that table right there.
I'm sorry, if you could just point as to where she's seated.
Right here.
No, I just asked record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, when you first sort of arrive on scene, who, if anyone, is the first person that you talked to?
Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park.
And following that conversation, who, if anyone, you speak to?
Probably briefly Lieutenant Mulaney, but more, Officer Mulaney and Officer Saraf.
Now, following your conversation, well, let me ask you this sort of in general terms. When you respond to a call for a Section 12, what is sort of the protocol that you go through in regard to that?
Whether it's a Section 12 or any call, basically, the lead tech generally takes over immediate patient care, goes over, assesses. Usually the partner will go over and try and find out background details, try and find not only, well, especially for a Section 12, you want to get, the tech will get, which is Jason's role, the patient story, and then I'll get everyone else's story.
And at some point, you have a conversation with Ms. Reed as well.
Oh, yes.
And where is that in relation to vehicles on scene? So what is that initial conversation?
The initial conversation, she was very upset. She kept saying, so we had a Section 12 written, and that was to take her to the hospital because she made threats against her life, saying, I don't want to live anymore. If my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. And myself and Jason and Lieutenant Woodbury were kind of like, well, that's seemingly more in the lines of normal grieving process after something traumatic happens to a loved one, whether they're going to die or not. We kind of didn't feel like it kind of led to that level of a Section 12 to have her transported to the hospital. So at that point, I exited the ambulance and I went to speak with Officer Saraf, and I said, this kind of doesn't, if we want her to be at the hospital, get a full eval, we're going to need more than just, if my husband dies, I want to die, because that seems just like normal grieving things to say. And so I went back to the ambulance. He went, I don't know where he went. I don't know whether it was cruiser or what. But he came back, notified me that her...
Sustained.
And from that conversation,
quick
did you receive
hearsay
more
objection.
information or more clarity as to statements that Ms. Reed had made?
Yes, Officer Saraf had said that...
Objection.
So not what he said, sir. So
We
you
were
are
informed
unmuted.
that...
Objection.
I'm not sure.
So you can't testify to what somebody else told you. You can when there's no objection regarding what Ms. Reed told you,
Okay.
but you can't testify what anybody else told you.
Okay.
So when I say sustain, that means you have to stop.
Okay.
And the lawyer will ask another question. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Somebody on Zoom is dialing.
Firefighter Whitley, at some point, specific to your conversations with the defendant, Ms. you described sort of her demeanor or any observations you made in relation to that as you were speaking with her.
Yes, she was very upset. She kept asking if there was any chance. She kept asking us if we knew if the person ambulance 1 had transported was alive or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours. And at that point, we were just trying to give her any hope that whomever A1 transported was still alive. And we kind of just talked about far off hypothermia cases where, kids have fallen in rivers and been submerged for many minutes, maybe even hours, and survived with no neurological deficits. So we were just trying to give her some sort of hope on the way to the hospital that there was a chance that her husband could be alive.
Now, at this point, what, if anything, did you know about sort of the relationship between your patient, the defendant, Ms. Reed, and the patient from Ambulance 1 that had been transported previously?
She identified him as her husband.
And is that something that you said once or more than once?
Many, many times.
Now, she asked you some questions about his status and made specific reference to his clothing. Is that correct?
The only thing I recall is asking if he could have survived without a jacket.
Now, as far as these conversations that you had with Ms. Reed, where did they occur in relation to the ambulance?
They were in the back of the ambulance.
And who, if anyone, was present in the back of the ambulance beyond yourself and the defendant?
Jason Becker.
And with reference to, you mentioned that Firefighter Becker was sort of the lead paramedic or the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Yes.
So is there from sort of his role and your role, what are some of the sort of differences in the duties and responsibilities in relation, we'll call it?
So for any Section 12 or our department policy is there will be 2 EMTs, paramedics, firefighters with during transport at all times. That's both for our safety and the patient safety. So that's why it wasn't just 2 EMTs or paramedics driving to the hospital. I was in back with Jason, and Sam Park was driving.
Now, as far as you testified earlier about observations of her being upset or distraught, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that consistent throughout your interaction with her, or?
No. There would be episodes where she would like go from crying in her hands to all of a sudden perking up. She was crying about having to take care of kids, saying she couldn't do it, and I was saying, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. She kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids, and they're not his kids. That's when I figured out who Ambulance 1 transported. And I was saying, well, it seems like you have a good, strong support system. People who came and helped you in a blizzard to help come find your husband. She said, she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts. I said I did. She said anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say those things. And that kind of took me aback a bit. It seemed strange to say something like that after you were just crying because your husband was dead.
Take you back just within.
I was just kind of surprised.
If I could take you back within that just for a minute. So you had testified that during that, her description, you sort of realized who was a patient in Ambulance 1, is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if anything, made you realize, or who did you think it was?
I live in and grew up in the Ponquag neighborhood of Canton, and Mr. O'Keefe was known for taking on his niece and nephew after, I'm not sure positive of the relationship, but I believe it was his sister and his brother-in-law passed away, and it was something people admired him for, people looked up to him for. But I was able to, I moved into the Ponquag neighborhood back after living outside of Canton for a few years. The O'Keefes lived diagonally across from me. I never had any sort of interaction with him or anything. When I moved in, my wife was probably about 6 months pregnant, and I had 2 toddlers, so I was pretty busy. I figured he was pretty busy. I never even had a chance to introduce myself or anything before he moved to Meadows, which is how I kind of figured out.
Your Honor, I object to this line of questioning.
Okay, next, sustain. Next question.
Now, you had also mentioned during your conversation with the defendant that she had said some things about Carrie Roberts, correct?
Correct.
And how is it that you know Carrie Roberts?
Well, Carrie lives around the corner from me.
Objection.
No, I'll allow
Sidebar.
that. Next question, please.
How long have you known Carrie Roberts?
Just from moving back into the neighborhood, she would run the neighborhood block party, and she put out that she would like the fire truck there on the neighborhood Facebook page, so I volunteered to bring the fire truck to the neighborhood block party.
And was Ms. Roberts seen on Fairview when you arrived in your ambulance?
Yes.
So she was one of the other females along with the defendant?
Correct.
Now, with reference to when you brought up as far as support system and included Ms. Roberts within that, what, if anything, did the defendant say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustain. Next question, please.
Now, this conversation that you had with the defendant in the ambulance, about how long a period of time are we talking about?
20, 25 minutes.
And beyond what you've already testified to, what did sort of that conversation consist of, or what was the sort of tone and tenor of that conversation?
Again, we were just trying to give her any support. She was, once we were getting closer to the hospital, we
Objection.
So the tone and tenor. So what can you tell us about that? That's admissible, Mr. Yannetti. Go ahead.
The tone, she would go from being almost despondent to when she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts, the only tone I can use to describe it is snarky.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll strike that.
Clerk's like, cross
Now,
that part out.
You transported to a Good Samaritan, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you, during the transport, where are you in relation to Ms. Reed from Fairview to Good Samaritan?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
During the transport, Ms. Reed is where within the ambulance?
I believe we have what we call a tech bench, which is a long bench. There's the ambulance stretcher, and then to next to the ambulance stretcher is, we call it the CPR seat, and then that's where Miss Reed sat. And then I was in what we call the airway seat, which is basically like a captain's chair behind the stretcher.
And in addition to yourself and the defendant, who, if anyone, else was sort of in the back of the ambulance at that time?
During transport?
Yes.
During transport, it was just me, Jason Becker, and Miss Reed.
Okay. So yourself, along with firefighter Becker, in the back, right?
Correct.
Who was driving the ambulance?
Sam Park.
Now, when you arrived at Good Samaritan, what, if anything, happened?
Miss Reed was asking to be able to see John, and I made the decision that I would run ahead to see if that was in the realm of possibility with the emergency room physician there. So I ran ahead. I came into they call it the code room at Good Sam, and I asked if the wife could see the husband. The ER doctor asked if she would be upset. I said if she would be upset if she was allowed to or not. And I said she's going to be upset. I believe she's going to be upset either way. He was asking if she would get in the way of the resuscitation efforts, and I said it's possible. She's very upset.
And so, once you arrive at the hospital with the patient, where do you go along with Ms. Reed?
We escorted her down to we call it the psych hall or the behavioral hall at Good Sam.
And about how long was it after you escorted her into the hospital that you stayed with her following that?
At least 10 minutes.
And during those 10 minutes, how would you describe sort of her behavior or demeanor during that time?
Objection.
No, he can testify to that.
He was giving the nurses a hard time about, she was giving the nurses a hard time about having to get into a Johnny, about having to submit a urine sample. Even the ER techs went to the physician who was in the code room to see if she could not have to wear a Johnny, and the ER doc said no, if she's in the psych hall, she's a psych patient, needs to be in a Johnny. So at that point, there was just a nurse and a tech. We don't usually leave a psych patient with just a single nurse and a tech, so we decided to wait until security had gotten there before we left.
May I have one moment?
Yes.
I believe a Johnny is some sort of outfit. I'm not sure if it's specific to psychiatric patients or if it's more just the traditional hospital clothing. Hopefully somebody can weigh in on that one.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Apparently,
right, Mr.
apparently
Nettie.
Poland
Thank you.
Springs is
Good
owned
afternoon,
by the
sir.
same company
Good
that
afternoon.
owns Deer Park Water. Thank you for that. That was interesting to know.
So, Mr. Whitley, when you showed up, you learned that Karen Reed was the patient that you were to deal with, correct?
Correct.
And it was your expectation that she would be going to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
One of the things that you do when you transport somebody to the hospital is you try to get a medical history, correct?
Yep.
Why is that important?
Generally, we get pertinent medical history to pass on to the hospital. So if something were to happen where the patient wasn't able to describe their past medical history, it gets passed on to the next caregiver, which would be the nurses, doctors at the hospital.
Okay. More information is always better than less information, correct?
I would say so.
And with regard to Ms. Reed, did you take a medical history from her?
I assume Jason did.
Okay. Did you learn the results of that medical history?
You'd have to refer to Jason's report.
I may have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
I have not found any bias in the judge yet.
May I approach?
Yes.
Part of that might be
Mr.
that we don't
Whitley,
hear
if
what's
I,
happening in the sidebars.
I'm actually going to show you two documents with your permission. One would be Jason's report.
Okay.
And you were talking about Jason Becker, correct?
Correct.
The other is a police report from Sergeant Yuri Buchnick. I'm going to give you the second page of that.
So let's do them one at a time.
Sure. And you've asked for Jason Becker's report, so I'll give you that first, okay?
Okay.
And when I approach you, I'm going to hand this to you, and I just ask you to look at it silently by yourself.
Okay.
And then look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
He's a quick reader. He's flying through these pages. Maybe the report's drawn in crayon in picture format. Eric, I do find it different. I wish we got a little more information. I'm always wanting more. I understand why they do this, because at the same time, I get frustrated when there are huge, long speaking objections where one side basically gets to argue to the jury their opinion, which should not be in their testimony portion. So I realize why they do it like this. I wish in this case we knew a little bit more. Maybe just the nature of the objection would be good.
The first report was the NFIRS report from my lieutenant.
Was Jason Becker's report included in it
Yes.
as well?
Yep.
Having reviewed those documents, does that refresh your memory as to the medical history that was taken?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about that?
Just lists multiple sclerosis.
What is multiple sclerosis?
It's a curvature
I
in the
believe
back.
it's a neurodegenerative disease where the myelin sheathing of the trying to think of the word here, but
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
you know, I understand.
I'm sure you do. It's a disease.
It's a disease that's progressive and has neurological muscle control things involved with it.
And when you say progressive, that means it gets worse over time as you age?
As I understand it.
And that was the medical history you got from Karen Lee?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
All right. So, sir, you are all set. Thank you, Mr. Whitley. Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. Call Mr. Jason Becker to the stand.
Jason Becker, also in the ambulance on this trip, taking Karen Reed to the hospital on the Section 12 call.
Please watch your step. Sure. You get there, please. Face that clerk and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the honesty of the court and jury in the case now here and should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
First name's Jason, last name's Becker, Becker.
And what do you do for us, sir?
I'm a firefighter paramedic at the Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
5.5 years.
And prior to that, what, if any, other employment did you have sort of within that same field?
I worked at Found Ambulance and South Shore Hospital.
How long did you work at each of those respective positions?
Found Ambulance was about 5 years. South Shore Hospital, approximately 3 years.
And with regard to South Shore Hospital, what is it that you did there?
I was a nursing assistant in the emergency room.
And with regard to your work as a firefighter paramedic for the Canton Fire Department, you a certified paramedic?
Yes.
And when did you first receive that certification?
October 2021.
And is that something that you receive, or when you receive that, is something that goes on in perpetuity, or is that something that you have a continuing educational component or a recertification?
It's Con Ed education. Every 2 years you have to recertify.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Were you working on that occasion?
I was.
And where were you assigned, I'm sorry, what type of shift were you working on that occasion?
What type of shift?
Yes, like what hour to what hour?
8 a.m. to 8 a.m., 24 hours.
So 8 a.m. on the 28th until 8 a.m. on the 29th?
Correct.
And where were you assigned on that day?
I was at Canton Station 2, Ambulance 2.
And who, if anyone else, was assigned with you to Ambulance 2 at Station 2 on that day?
Daniel Whitley, firefighter Daniel Whitley.
Now, at some point when you were working on the 29th, shortly after 6 a.m. or so, did you become aware of a call for station house number 1?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you aware of as far as that earlier call?
As far as we know, there was a man down the road, initial, and I believe it was upgraded eventually to CPR in progress.
Now, at some point following that, approximately 6:41 a.m. or so, did you, your station, dispatch to Fairview Road?
Yes.
And in regard to
A psych eval, possible Section 12.
And in addition to yourself and firefighter Whitley in Ambulance 2, what, if any, other sort of vehicles were dispatched by your department to that call as well?
The Canton Engine 3.
And if you know, who, if anyone, was on Canton Engine 3 at that time?
Lieutenant Greg Woodbury, firefighter Sam Park.
Now, with regard to the ambulance that you were in with firefighter Whitley, what were sort of, let me ask you this, between sort of call volume, what, if any, sort of policy or protocol is there as far as who does what on a particular call?
We switch off.
And so on this particular call that you were dispatched to Fairview Road, what were sort of each of your respective duties and responsibilities between yourself and firefighter Whitley?
Firefighter Whitley was the driver at that point, and it was my tech, is what it's called. So the next patient would be mine.
And so as sort of you were the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Correct.
And so as far as the lead tech's role, what, if any, duties or responsibilities do you have in regard to writing a report?
It's my report. That'd be right.
May I approach you, witness?
Yes.
Tell me what documents is that to review that look up for me.
Speed reader.
The first report up here is the engines. Second one would be mine.
You recognize the first few pages of that as the engines report, and the last few are yours, correct?
Correct.
And that's your report with relation to this dispatch and this call, correct?
Correct.
Can I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want the seat to introduce in a minute as the next.
So both reports through this witness? Is there any objection?
Yeah, just take a look at the DA's copy.
Okay.
May we approach?
Okay.
They don't agree on something. This is the report that Jason Becker, he was responsible of this crew that transported Karen Reed to the hospital on the Section 12 call. He's the individual who's responsible to file the report or write the report. Sounds like we've presented that to the witness. There's an engine copy on the front, so the engine report, and then his report's on the back. And prosecution wants to take a look at it and not liking it. So now there's going to be a bit of a discussion. I've got one more Mountain Dew in the fridge. If I do just straight peeps, I'm going to fall asleep. Let's see who is out and about. Was that the brother? Was that the first? Is that our first witness? Is that Paul? Gary, you like our seismograph? There's a big sigh.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
With that addendum, I would seek to introduce and admit that as the next exhibit.
Okay.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, can I return the report to the witness?
Yes.
Yes, Mom.
It's the victim's brother and sister-in-law.
Now, sir, when you first sort of arrive in the area of 34, when you arrive in the area of Fairview Road, what, if anything, is it that you first observe upon your arrival?
Coming down the street or on scene?
Yes, coming down the street.
Coming down the street, live police lights. You can see the fire engine, and I believe I said it's one black SUV.
And where is it that you and the ambulance sort of park in reference to those other vehicles that you see?
I believe we parked, if the SUV was facing towards us, we parked to the left. I don't recall where the police cruiser was, though.
And when you first arrive there, who, if anyone, is it that you first speak with when you get there?
When we got out of the ambulance, I passed Officer Saraf and Officer Mulaney. They kind of briefed us, and then I walked over to the black SUV.
And when you walk over to the black SUV, who is it that you observe in that black SUV?
I saw two females.
And of those two females, do you see one of them in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Right over there, the jacket on.
That's the record reflect identification of the defendant by the way.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where within the vehicle is she when you first come up to the vehicle and observe?
When I remember, she was in the front passenger seat.
And what, if any, knowledge did you have as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed, and her relationship to the earlier call that ambulance 1 had been dispatched with?
Very little. I think we had gotten briefed that she was the wife of the previous patient.
And was that something that she had stated or something that somebody else had stated? Where does that awareness come
I
from?
believe it was one of the Canton police officers that said it.
I'm sorry, what was that answer?
It was one of the Canton police officers.
Okay.
And so when you walk up to the car, what is it that you say to her, or what, if any, conversation did you have with Ms. Reed at that point?
So I went up to the window and introduced myself and just kind of asked what was going on.
And how did she respond to that?
She was kind of, she was distraught, she was crying. She kind of told us that the statements she may have made, she didn't mean it because of the current events that she had just gone through.
What, if anything, did she say about that? If anything, did she say about what she had gone through?
That she had just done CPR on her husband.
And so she referred to him as her husband as well?
Yes.
And this conversation that you had sort of at the side of the SUV, is that through the door, through the window?
From what I recall, it was through the window.
And at some point, does the conversation move to the ambulance?
Correct.
About how long was the conversation at the vehicle before the conversation shifted to the ambulance?
5 to 10 minutes.
And as far as your dispatch for a psych or a Section 12, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain to the jury sort of that process, just in general terms first, as far as what does that process entail?
And when we get on scene?
Yes.
For a section?
Yes, please.
We go on scene, we kind of look at the environment, see what the environment's like, see if the patient's cooperative, uncooperative, what their demeanor is, if there's any obvious self-harm. If there's none, we kind of go up and talk to them, get a report, and ask them some basic triage questions.
And is that sort of the policy or the protocol or what you followed in this instance with Ms. Reed?
Correct.
Now, beyond what she had indicated to you initially, what, if anything, was she asking you during the course of your conversation with her once you were in the ambulance?
She kept asking if he was dead or could he be dead.
Is that something that she said once or more than once or something else?
More than once.
And could you describe sort of the tone of her voice when she was saying it? It was kind of like it was a rapid kind of pressured speech. She was just a lot repetitive. And as you were speaking with her, what, if any, observations did you make of her facial area? She had blood on her face and her neck and her blood around her mouth, her neck and chin. So with regard to sort of any earlier suicidal statements, what, if anything, did she say in relation to that? She said she made them because she just went through a traumatic event, seeing her husband dead, and she had no plan on acting on it. Now, pursuant to a Section 12 call, what, if anything, are you doing as far as documentation goes with respect to vital signs, things like that? Well, it depends on the situation. In a situation with misreads, I took a regular, just vital signs, pulse oximetry to see her heart rate. But for someone like a female psych patient, it's more verbal. And as far as any of those sort of vital signs and things that you took, what, if anything, abnormal did you note in regard to that? Nothing too abnormal. Just the heart rate might have been a little bit high, but within normal range.
Could you please keep your voice up, sir? Thank you.
Sorry. With the vital signs, her heart rate was a little high. It was 98, but it was nothing concerning. During the time that you're having this conversation with her in the back of the ambulance, how would you describe it?
I'm going to see if I can stop this clip here just a minute.
She would have periods of calmness, and then other periods she would appear agitated because she didn't want to go to the hospital. But all in all, she was cooperative with us.
See if that fixed it. Karen Reed went to the hospital immediately after John did, because she made some statements about self-harm.
Eventually, yes.
When you say eventually, was there some conversation related to that?
We kind of mentioned to her basically what a Section 12 is. And unfortunately, she'd have to come with us involuntarily.
So you're explaining the process to her, is that correct?
Correct.
Eventually, she agrees to go, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the transport goes, who, if anyone, is in the back of the ambulance with her during the transport period?
Me and Firefighter Whitley.
And who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance to the hospital?
Firefighter Park.
And which hospital did you transport Ms. Reed to?
We went to the Good Samaritan Hospital.
Now, during the course of transfer to the hospital, what, if anything else, did Ms. Reed say with reference to children?
She was talking about Keith's children, and she was unsure, and she didn't know if she'd be able to take care of them. She was worried about that.
She was worried about that?
Yeah, she's worried about who would take care of the children if he was pronounced dead.
And what, if anything, did she say about herself in reference to the children?
She didn't think that she could take care of them on her own.
Now, as far as this other person or the patient from the earlier call, how did she to that person in relationship to yourself?
She was calling him the husband.
Now, with reference to this particular, with reference to Ms. Reed in this conversation, what, if anything, did she say in regard to the last time that she had spoken to who she called her husband?
She had said that they had gotten into an argument. She was sad because that was the last thing she had said to him, was the argument, but she didn't go into detail on what the argument was about or what was said.
Now, with regard to her speaking about the children, what, if any, further conversation did either yourself or Firefighter Whitley have with her in regard to that?
With children?
Yes.
I don't recall.
The other female party that Ms. Reed was initially with in the vehicle when you first arrived, did you know who that was?
I don't know who she was.
And at any point in time, subsequent to that, did you learn who she was?
I did.
And who did you learn her to be?
She was Miss Carrie Roberts.
And with relation to your conversation with Ms. Reed on that day of January 29th, what, if anything, did she say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
Who's this Carrie Roberts lady?
With regard to
She's the one that's not a good
medical
friend.
questions that you were asked, from those medical questions, what, if any, questions would you typically ask someone with relation to consumption of alcohol or drugs?
Well, probably part of the psych assessment, I asked if she had taken any drugs or alcohol, and she had denied it at that point.
She said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
No drugs or alcohol.
The observations that you testified to earlier in regard to her, and by her I mean Ms. Reed's demeanor, did that change at all during the course of your interaction with her, or was that consistent as well?
Demeanor as in...
It's a poorly phrased question. Let me try and rephrase it for you. So, with regard to her demeanor, throughout the course of your interaction with her, how would you describe that?
She was cooperative. Then she would she'd be calm, and then eventually she would kind of get a little agitated and repetitive questions, but she seemed distraught.
Now, with respect to the person she indicated was her husband, what, if any, questions did she ask either you or firefighter Whitley or both in relation to him?
She was asking if he was dead, or could he be dead, could be dead, and she said, could I have hit him?
Ooh.
Was that something that she asked once or more than once?
It wasn't a lot. It was more of, could he be dead, could he be dead?
So somewhat repetitive, is that correct?
Correct.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
We done with cross on this one? Could I have hit him is a big difference from I hit him.
Firefighter Becker, just my own clarification. You testified earlier that first arriving on scene and first spoke with Ms. Reed, she indicated that there was some statements that she said there were some statements that she did not mean, correct?
Correct. Suicidal statements.
And so, exactly. So my question is, that was in reference to the suicidal statements she had made prior to your arrival, correct?
Correct.
Not to any subsequent statements, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Rona.
Okay, now we have cross. Here we go.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You and I have never met, right?
I don't believe so.
I wanted to go back to one piece of testimony that you offered on direct examination, if I may.
Sure.
You had, in response to a question from the prosecutor about the medical history and your question to Ms. Reed about whether she had had any alcohol to drink. I believe your answer today was she denied having drank alcohol the night before?
At the time that she was, she could have, I don't know if she drank alcohol the night before, but at that time I asked if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
I'm sorry, if I just didn't hear
Yeah, you need to keep your voice up, sir, or speak directly into the microphone.
So I asked her if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
Oh, if she had any drugs
Well,
or
if she'd
alcohol.
taken any drugs or alcohol, she said no.
Did you specify a time period?
I just assumed it'd be in the last few hours for the reason why we were there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Unsure if she had alcohol days prior, but for the reason why we were there.
Okay. So, was it your understanding that the two of you had an understanding of what you were asking?
Sure.
Objection, move this.
Yeah. So the objection sustained. It's stricken. Ask the question differently, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. So, I guess with regard to your intent and your state of mind when you were asking that question, you were asking, had you taken any drugs or alcohol within the last few hours? That's what you meant to ask?
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
What did you specifically ask?
So when I ask a patient if any drugs or alcohol, I'm talking about at that point in time, but an hour before, 2 hours before, not days before, weeks before.
Okay.
So,
and this was at 6:40 in the morning,
correct?
Did you smell any alcohol on her at that time?
I did not.
Okay. You would agree that she did tell you at some point that she had had alcohol the night before, correct?
No.
All right. So this is now, what's today, May 3rd of 2024?
Correct.
And this happened back in January, on January 29th of 2022?
Correct.
You were interviewed by a Trooper Michael Proctor on February 14th of 2022. Do you recall that?
I recall meeting with him, yes.
And February 14th of 2022 would have been a little bit more than 2 weeks after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Your memory of what Karen Reed told you about whether she had anything to drink the night before would have been much better on February 14th of 2022 when you were talking to Trooper Michael Proctor than it would be today, correct?
Correct.
Because your memory doesn't get better over time, correct?
Certain circumstances, sure.
And with regard to whether Karen had indicated that she took any drugs, you told Trooper Proctor she said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
With regard to whether she had had alcohol the night before, you told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that she did consume alcohol last night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to see a sidebar on this. Please bring that with you, please.
All right, we're impeaching this witness with prior testimony, or at least a prior statement made to Trooper Proctor, where apparently Karen Reed did say she had had some alcohol the night before, and apparently told him that, and he told Proctor that, but now he doesn't remember it happening. So the judge is going to get to the bottom of this, and we'll see what is going to be allowed and to be presented to the witness to refresh his recollection, which the judge is actually quite protective of. Usually judges say you can show him anything, ham sandwich even, to refresh his recollection. This judge is a little bit more of a micromanager when it comes to that.
With your permission, I'll repeat the question.
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that Karen had told you that she did consume alcohol the previous night, correct?
If that's in his notes.
Well, is your memory exhausted as to whether you told him that?
I don't recall.
If you saw his report with your statements in it, would that refresh your memory?
Sure.
It's a 2-page report. I'll give you both, actually. It's a 2-page report. I'll give you both pages, but I have highlighted a line on the second page, so I would direct you to that. May I approach?
Yes. And take your time reading it, sir.
Yes, yeah. And please read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
I don't think the issue of whether or not she'd had drinks is quite so important to the defense as that they can have one more witness they can show that the memory was faulty. That's if the defense can keep that theme running, and every time there's a witness that testifies about here's exactly how it happened, and they can show actually your memory has changed completely. It was completely different based on a prior statement. That helps, I think, their narrative more than whether or not.
So I did say.
So, Mr. Becker, a couple of things. Wait for a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But also, you have to keep your voice up.
Okay.
I'm close to you, and I'm having trouble hearing you. Most of the jurors are further away.
And the way this works is I have to collect that from you and then ask you a question, okay?
So,
if I may approach you on?
Yes.
Having reviewed that document, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not Karen Reed, or strike that? Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to the fact that you...
Does that refresh your memory?
Does that refresh your memory?
It does.
Lawyer 101.
And so did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 14th that Karen Reed had told you on January 29th that she had consumed alcohol the night before that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say that when you were listening to her talk at times, that her speech was very rapid?
Correct.
And particularly
is that a yes?
When she had said the words, is he dead, is he dead, she would repeat it repetitively, correct?
Correct.
And she was fixated on that, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the last interaction that she spoke about with whom you thought she said her husband, she didn't give you any detail about that, correct?
She did not.
You don't know whether it was an in-person communication?
That wasn't my position to ask more details about that.
Oh, and I'm not criticizing you, sir. I'm just trying to get to what your knowledge was in terms of the information you got from her. So she didn't specify that it was an in-person communication, correct?
No,
She didn't specify as to whether it was a phone conversation?
she did not.
She didn't specify whether it was a text message exchange back and forth?
She did not.
And she didn't specify whether it was an angry voicemail that she left, correct?
She did not.
I found the last package of peeps.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
See what the state wants to do as far as rehabilitating their witness.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Nothing.
All right. All right, Mr. Becker, or Firefighter Becker, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What does she mean
Thank
by
you.
all set? You're now ready for...
Yes, you can leave that right where it is. Thank you, sir.
Breaking news right now, the Adam
Your next
Montgomery
witness
case.
is still Allie?
May we approach?
Sure.
Well, they approach it. The state has offered Adam Montgomery a lighter sentence in return for him disclosing where Harmony's body is. And it appears that Adam has rejected that offer. Judge is demanding that Adam show where her body is. He has 7 days or else. Wow. And this is the first day Adam Montgomery has been in court. He was not there for any of his trial. I believe the legislature passed a law that makes him so he has to be there for the sentencing. Maybe it's because he doesn't know, says Lenova. At this point, he's been convicted, so we can say he's guilty of it, at least legally. Corn syrup is detrimental to your health. Check the labels. Yes, but does it taste good? That's the only question I have. All set like a jelly. Yep.
Does it make sense that rather than starting with another witness, figure it's a Friday afternoon, it's been a long week for you all, we'll excuse you at this point. So please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation.
Are we at that point already?
If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, disregard it and let us know. And have a great weekend. Monday will be a full day. We'll see you first thing Monday morning.
Rise for the jury. Rise
Let's see if they have any argument here.
Oh, sure.
20 jurors are now filing out. Any sides from the judge?
I think there's an exhibit in the witness stand. All right, because I've decided that it makes more sense to do exhibits the old-fashioned way because it's simply not working out.
So right when I put a peep in my mouth, cuts. They're going to renumber the exhibits.
And I know Madam Court Reporter has been great about sticking around all late during the week to pre-mark things. This is more important to me that we get the record straight from this point. I would prefer the jurors to have the exhibits in order and not have numbers 200 and 300 in where they should be 15 and 16. So what I would like you to all do is take a look at the exhibits that have actually been introduced. Their prior numbers, if you have referred to them by their prior numbers, I will permit you for the rest of the trial to say previously referred to as 308, but now exhibit 15, until you feel you don't need to do that anymore. So it means things are going to have to be renumbered. So, Madam Court Reporter, was there anything else we needed to discuss on this? Is there anything else you need from the lawyers? Okay. So, I don't want to use your name. You've got a list of everything, and Mr. McDermott's got a list of everything that's been introduced. Do you need me to do this, or is this something you can all do with Madam Court Reporter? And I want to come out and make sure it's right. All right, so why don't you all take 10 minutes to see if you can work this through. I'll come out at the end of 10 minutes, see what you have, and we'll make sure the record's straight. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. The only thing that I would ask to add to that, Your Honor, is in conformity with the court's ruling as far as redaction to the run sheets and the run reports. I'm not sure if they've been stickered or not, but there are medical records with regard to both the victim and the defendant that would be in there, and I would ask for them to either be marked for identification or taken out at this point. Okay. Ms. McLaughlin indicates they haven't been marked yet, so I would just ask to sort of retrieve.
All right, so that's sort of the second point. I assume there are many pages of medical records, and one of the things I told you this morning is if records are going to be introduced subject to redactions, those redactions have to be done before they're introduced. It's going to take some time. So you have to be, if you're not in agreement, then you need to tell me what you're not in agreement over, and I'll have to decide it, but they need to be redacted beforehand. Just because this is a long trial, I don't want it to take any longer than it necessarily has to be. And we have to make sure all of the exhibits are in order, especially if they do end up numbering in the hundreds.
Oh.
So, all right, so you've factor that into your schedule. We've got many days that we won't be in session. It seems like a good use of counsel's time to redact records and talk. If you need additional time and we need to cut into the evidence, I'd prefer not to, but I need to know. All right. So I have received from the Commonwealth all of the videos that I requested. I received a flash drive today. When can I get the videos? I thought I was clear yesterday. Apparently I wasn't. So when can I get all of the videos that the defendants intend to introduce? I had hoped to look at them over the weekend.
We can do, it's not a matter of getting them onto a flash drive. That's quick. It's just a matter of getting them to the court. So I would invite the court to direct us how, if you want to use the weekend, let us know. We work on Saturdays and Sundays.
So you can't do it today? You can't do it before you leave? I don't think your IT person's here, right?
I might be able to.
If you can do it before you leave, if he can just download it onto a flash drive, that would be great. Do you want to go talk to him and see how long?
You might be able to do that.
We may be able to do that.
Why don't you talk to him?
Your Honor, what's a flash drive? I'm just kidding. What's that question?
Yes.
It's saying take the weekend and figure out how you want us to give you the videos.
That would be great. And Ms. Gianetti, yesterday you did say that you'd also give me some idea on why you think they're coming in.
Cool.
Okay, so if you have that, that would be great.
Why you think they're coming in?
All right.
I just want to make sure I'm very clear about what the court would like.
Hey.
We provided the the double videos, the ones that we had put the good and Sirach cameras together, the court wants every single video that we intend to produce?
Yes.
For the rest of trial?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
All right, and that's what I requested from both of you. I received, Ms. Gilman, tell me if I'm wrong, but Mr. McDermott handed me a flash drive today that said this was all the Commonwealth's video exhibits. Yes.
And that was after we met this morning, correct? Yes. Okay.
All right, so that'd be great. I just, I want to know what's on them. I was surprised yesterday, and
Understood.
I shouldn't be surprised.
Understood.
All right, so I'll come out after you remark the exhibits. Do you need a break before then, Madam Court Reporter? Mr. McDermott? All right, thanks.
Court, all rise, please.
Okay. So the lawyers now get to copy files. Let's see if there's anything else today. She comes back out. Nope, not for us. She doesn't come out today. So that gets us through day 4. All the way through day 4. Who is sending? All right. What are those Soylent Greens? Can't wait to see his water bottle full of greens. Is that why y'all are getting my address? Like 50 million times people requested my address up here. What's his address? After I eat 2 of the 3 peeps, I believe with all treats, they're packaged in single serving boxes. So I'm pretty sure 3 peeps is 1 serving. I only had 2 of them. Let's see. No, you want to hear that? Go find a recording of which one? Of Kimar. What are we seeing? So this will be a peep recovery channel. Oh, yeah. I need an AG1 sponsorship. Oh, man. You're going to have cases of peeps. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Never mind. I played it. Okay. All right. What to go over today? I think this is actually a pain in the backside. Oh wow, the seismograph really does look like blood when there's no logo underneath, no counter. Seismograph up to 52. Here's the big version, 52 size that we've counted. Peep sponsorship. No, I think peeps just like they'll be around forever, like cockroaches. Looking forward to the Red Solo Cup times. Isn't there a country song about Red Solo Cups? I'm sorry if I'm not up to date on all the hip country music. As a kid, I could sing them all. I mean, all the way up till about Garth Brooks. I knew everything that was going on in country music. I sort of like drifted out of that scene, and suddenly I can sing along to Eminem and Five Finger Death Punch and a few others. No, I don't know why my taste in music shifted a little bit. I may have accidentally invited people to send you bulk shipments of peeps. No. I have the littlest post office box. It's a postcard is all that fits. Maybe a letter. There is a country song. Yes, by Toby Keith. He sang it. We can't play it, unfortunately. Red Solo Cup, I fill you up, proceed to party. Don't put acetone in Red Solo Cups, they melt. Ask me how I know. Okay, so we've already got the leaf blower. We've heard about the leaf blower that somebody was clearing snow with. Was this like powder? For those that don't get much snow, there are different types of snow, right? It's not just, not all snow is equal. So when you go out to, say, when the Olympics were held in Utah, if you went and visited there, you might have seen that on their license plates, they have something that says greatest snow on earth. You're like, well, snow is snow, right? Your snow, my snow, it's all about, how much you get. But no, it's different. There's powder, and then there's wet and heavy snow, and there's everything in between, and sometimes some crunchy stuff. Crunchy is no good. Ice chunks are no good. Frozen hail is not snow. But the skiers want the powder, the pow-pow, the fresh pow. And that's the stuff that is so light and fluffy that it's like skiing through, down feathers. It's just very, very light. Dry snow happens when it's very cold when it snows. Like all the way down. It doesn't clump up. It doesn't like make large hail and things like that. But dry snow is good for skiing. And it sounds like this blizzard that happened might have been light dry snow. That's the only way you're going to blow it with a leaf blower and have it be effective in any manner. It's not going to happen. Wet snow does not really get blown. You might, if you put the leaf blower like right on top of it, it will be like blow little chunks here and there. But thank you, Ayden, for always good advice. Don't eat the yellow snow. Dashcam videos, the snowflakes look pretty decent sized. They can be decent sized and not be wet. But also, all snow is bad, which is why I live in Florida, says AC's Wildflower. Gas-powered leaf blower really works. You'll need to be like 200 miles an hour. And even then, it's not like clearing your yard of leaves, because wet snow just does not want to get blown around, at least once it's on the ground. It clumps together with all the other snow. All right. Let's see, anything else we have to do to talk about today? Okay, I'm sorry. Orange County Sheriff's Office. I follow them on Twitter, and I don't know if they've hired like a team of over-exuberant youth to take over this, like interns. But they are tweeting every, 5 minutes. Is it just like the person who tweets the most wins? Because they're tweeting pictures of Deputy Viner, who was competed in the BMX World Championship. Well, that's cool. And hey, it's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. That's cool. Calling all teens with passion for the game basketball camp. That's cool. What does it have to do with Orange County Sheriff's Office? I'm sorry. Orange County Sheriff's Office, I am unringing your all post notifications because it's blowing up my phone with things other than public information officer stuff. Anyway, about that. I think that's all. I think that's where we are. All right, tonight we have a podcast with Weather Watch. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please be there. Bring a friend. It's more fun with company, people you like, people you don't like. Bring them and just have them join separately. But hilarity will ensue, as usual, and you're welcome to join in with that. I can't wait to show you the video of Thomas driving. Not sure what were you driving? Was it a school bus, Thomas? I don't remember, but we'll have to check it out. We'll see what it was. RA hates basketball camps, confirmed. I've never, when I was a kid, first of all, my family was too poor to send me to any sporting events. I was signed up once for a sports, like an organized sport, and it was like the city is having a summer camp for archery, teaching you how to play archery. And we signed up, and then it turns out that the day or the time they had us do it was the same time I was committed to do something else, like for the scouting program, and I didn't get to go. So that's why I was never picked for the Hunger Games for my amazing archery skills, because I missed the class. I did get a bow though. Did get a recurve bow. A little yellow one. It was not a toy. They explained over and over it was not a toy. And only one time did I fire up in there to see how high I could make the arrow go. And after I let go, I remembered it was going to come down. And where do you run when you can't see the arrow because the sky's really bright up there and you don't know where it is? Oh my goodness. Anyway, crazy, crazy stuff. surprised I lived through childhood. Felt like a bus, says Thomas. Felt like a bus. All right, tonight we're gonna have a lot of fun on the podcast. That's hours away. What are we gonna do between now and then? That's what the garbage can lid is for the shield, of course. I break out the shield, the Captain America shield. This is my washer agitator, which works like a garbage can lid. But I could probably just duck underneath that. Not sure where I'm supposed to put that agitator. I've got a new one coming. Did he take that from a campus protester? No, I took that out of my washer in the Airbnb because the agitator gear was broken. We got the washer and dryer out there on a deal. Well, now I know why it was on a deal. It was because it was broken. Only RA has agitators lying around. So I was showing it the other day, and I just have not put it away. Mrs. RA's washer is in the studio. LARP is next Thursday. Well, I'm just getting prepared. That's all. Quick check-in with Thomas regarding the weather. Particularly, I don't know, around like 8 p.m. tonight for parts of Texas and North Carolina. What does it look like? Are we good? Are we in the safe zone? See, I'm going to check my little weather app. It's not as good as Thomas, but it might be enough. Okay, actually some storms are moving like down south. They're like splitting. North Carolina is like splitting the storms. We have some going through Georgia, and that'll end up down the top around Jacksonville. So they've been pushed down right around Charlotte's area, and some that are going north up through West Virginia and up into PA. And I don't know. That gets us to right around. Apparently there will be no clouds in the sky over North Carolina at 8 p.m. tonight. So I think we'll be good on our side. I don't know how, Thomas, you're doing. Active tornado warnings going on right now. Bummer. Lenova gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Lenova. That is wonderful. It went to AC's Wildflower. Congratulations, AC's. That's really cool. Congratulations. Local news stations blowing up my phone with the thunderstorm alerts. We saw one lightning strike last night driving home. Just one like flash, and it was way off in the distance. Nothing close at all. Okay, keep your storms to yourself. We're under tornado watch. Stay safe. Stay safe. Amanda H., member for 12 months. You made it 1 year. That is awesome. Amanda, congratulations on the Orange Courthouse. She says, thank you, RA, for this channel and Addict family. Thank you. Officially 1 year. That's really cool. And it also blows my mind that we've been doing this for over a year. Just crazy. Breaking 35-year-old rusted yellow bow falls from sky in tornado. Greetings. I shot the arrow, not the bow, up into the sky. The arrow is what flies. The bow I held on to, although I don't know where it is now. I lost it. So it's probably out in the yard. Probably set it down in the grass and the lawn just like grew over it. It's fiberglass. It's probably still good. Bug Dugger, you're close. A few more days to the 1 year mark. This is the worst archery channel ever. Okay, Ivan, I would say a buddy. I had an acquaintance. He was a couple years older than me, and we never really hung out. Although we did go deer hunting together one time. His dad took me deer hunting with him one time, and apparently I'm not good at it, and so we never went again. But the family's big into archery. I didn't do archery deer hunting. We did the rifle hunt, and I didn't even see, well, I did see some deer, but I chased them. Apparently you're not supposed to chase the deer. You're supposed to sit down and wait for them to like come back to you or something. I got that wrong. Sorry. So no luck on that front. But this family, big into archery, especially the son, and he's got this amazing compound bow, and he sets up his yard was like long and narrow, and he's got a target there at the back, and he like shoots along the side of the house. And so he shoots along the side of the house and at this target with a good safe backstop and everything. And he's a good aim, so he doesn't miss. But I went over and we hung out at their house one time, and he had hanging on the wall, he had one aluminum arrow with the next aluminum arrow embedded in the back of it. He did the Robin Hood thing with aluminum arrows. And it was the first 2 shots he fired with his bow. It was like, I don't know if it was a bullseye, but he hit the previous arrow. So, yeah, that I've never done that, just for the record. I know you guys were thinking that. No, I have not. I've not done that. But let's see. I'm a terrible archer. I always miss my targets. Red pen. I always shoot like the old. I was shooting the old wooden arrows, and usually the arrow, when it flies, it does sort of this thing. If you slow it down, it's what it does. The arrow's like, it's not like a, it's like a thump, 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 like that. And usually I hit like the top of the hay bale, and then it will do like this boing, and then ricochet up into the air, and then the arrow can go anywhere from that point. It's like it gains speed as soon as it ricochets off something, and it's gone. Just history. But William Tell, I was not. I was good at fishing, Helena. I was excellent at fishing, and I still like to think I am. But now I would be scared to get my kids a bow, because I knew what I did with the bow when I was a kid. And if they did the same things that I did when I was a kid, odds are they would not be as fortunate as me. Why? Because I beat the odds. Really did. Natalie O, if arm was bent at the elbow, could the bite marks be on the upper and lower arm? Love your YouTube. I think that makes sense. It could. I always imagined the arm was straight when it happened, but if the arm was bent, that's definitely a possibility. Lenova gifted a membership, and Amanda H 1 year. Thank you very much for the 3 of you. Wanted to make sure we got those messages, because last stream I ended without checking them. I apologize for that. All right. I used a proper English longbow when I was involved in a medieval recreation society. Handmade arrows every once in a while. I miss it. Proper longbow. Those are tough. Those are tough bows. Plus, I think I would like the string. The string comes too close to the hand on that for me. It's quite the sport. Don't deny your kiddos. Cass, actually, my youngest he's going to be thrilled if we stop right now, because he wants a golf club. He wants a golf club, and I'm going to go get him one. But I thought clearly he wants a putter, right? Because that's how I play golf. I putt. And it's because I only do mini golf. But no, he wants the club, and he showed me his swing. Like, he practiced. He's like, no, I want a golf club. And he does this thing where like one leg goes up in the air, and he does a swing and a hop. It's probably the worst form ever. But he is so excited to play golf that we're going to head down and see if we can find him a little golf club. I'm worried about my windows and the neighbor's windows, because of all the kids who will figure out how to whack that ball and make it fly, he's the one that will do it, of my kids. So we're going to look for probably foam golf balls and a golf club. And yeah, I can't deny him that. He's just so excited, because he's the guy. He's the little guy, and it keeps him off the roof. I mean, I'd rather have him, hit a golf ball through a window than climb up on the roof and, wonder what the world looks like from the bird's perspective. Be worried about the tenant in the Airbnb. Hey, just make him sign a waiver and we'll be good. Wiffle golf balls, very popular for practice. We've got, our neighbor has a big yard. He's probably got an acre behind us that's just grass, and it's kept mowed, and he lets the kids play over there. He doesn't live there. I think he lives in Oklahoma, but he comes back every couple of weeks to mow his lawn. Waiver. You may have golf balls fly through your windows. Helena, stay safe until you pay for your neighbor's broken window. Yeah. Who hasn't paid for a broken window that your kids broke? I mean, I know my parents had to pay for, let's see, at least one broken window, threw a baseball through that one. I think I've done one Frisbee and one sliding glass door. That was the expensive one. The bike through the sliding glass door was probably my most expensive oopsie as far as glass goes. I protest that one, by the way. I protest that. Now let me tell you, the bikes, my bike was the furthest from the glass door. And we all lined up. We all rode into the driveway and parked next to the little sliding door that was like in the little carport. We parked next to it, and like his kids, like the neighbor's kids, they parked next to the glass door. The next person parked the next one over, and then my car parked the last one over. And we all parked, kickstands down. It was great. And then somebody bumped my bike. I was not there. Like all of us had moved. Somebody bumped my bike and knocked my bike over, knocked the next bike over, knocked the next bike over, and it went through the window. And the neighbors came over and talked to my parents and said it was my fault because the dominoes were stacked when they saw it. And my domino was on top, meaning it looks like I started the chain reaction. But I don't think that was a fair accusation on their part. Fixing a dent in someone's BMW is spendy. Oh, that's why we don't have BMWs. All right, with that, I think we're going to wrap up for today. I know it's early. It seems really early, but I guess my son's going to win, and we're going to get a golf club for him. Unless there's anything else we need to cover. I don't think we do. Let me get rid of that. Let's see. I'm just checking where everybody is. We've got Chad Daybell is on break right now. Looks like 2:45 Eastern time. They're going to be back. So in about half an hour, I think they must be on lunch. Podcast tonight, 8 p.m. here on this channel. Please click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and bring a friend. That would be awesome. Who doesn't want to watch two grown men completely talk about things that just don't matter and sometimes are just fun to talk about? Everybody wants that, so we're excited. I'm excited. Maybe I can contribute a little bit more this afternoon, Thomas, as well. So Daybell was on lunch. Good. There's something I'm forgetting. I don't remember what it is. It's not there. Can we watch Taylor Swift videos? Yeah, just not on my channel. That's all. That's my only restriction. Do we have homework for tonight? Nope. Bring a friend, that's all. Thank you, Amber. Get back to work, Amber. Get back to work. I'm forgetting to say that I love you. Oh, I do. I love you all. Thank you very much. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again tonight at 8 p.m. for the podcast. If you can't be here, that's all right. Just watch it on the replay. Make comment. We'll respond. It's going to be a lot of fun. We could talk about the Illuminati. We could, but we won't. So, all right. I think that's it.
Because he's the guy.
Got a full day of court tomorrow. No breaks. So we should have like 9 hours. I've got to figure out why this feed is hanging every few seconds. We've got it figured out. Unpin the message, and we both ended early. I'm sorry. All right, we'll see you guys tonight.
Someone with more experience.
We'll see you. Be good. Bye.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
Alex stole it. The zombie apocalypse may be upon us.